Good evening, good evening, good evening, and welcome to another experience of the African Speaks. We are in the month of August, and throughout the month, everybody is going to be celebrating Marcus Garvey. And so I came up with the concept of the Wisdom Week, where we're giving streams every day. We're giving nothing but information, upliftment, inspiration. We are developing ourselves this whole week, and we do it on a regular basis. But I said, yeah, we're gonna sit down and work on this transformation piece where we were talking about the power of the divine self, and we have 5 chapters left, and we're going to finish this chapter. We're on that next one. And but before we continue, of course, we want to always give, because this week we're going to start off with the giving honor to everything that Garvey did. Garvey created the largest black organization since slavery, with the focus on becoming self-determined as a people, defining everything for ourselves, asking us to live from straight par excellence. We should be able to do what any other man on this earth is doing. And because of the our heritage, when we start studying our own history, I'm gonna sit down and say we should be able to do so much more. And as we celebrate him, and I'm down with celebrating and honoring the brother, but I always want to, when it comes around, as this August comes around, I am more about trying to complete the job, trying to plug up the finish the puzzle. What are the pieces that was left behind for us to complete 1927, and we in 2026, and we are no better way off. We're still struggling to have that experience where we completely define ourselves. And we have social media now, which should allow us to be able to communicate, connect, and truly work together. Now, in the space where Garvey left off, he was always giving us a to-do list. He gave us a clear to-do list in order to get to the vision of being a sovereign people. And that first thing was, let us make man. Let us make mankind. Because we were already created in the image of God. So wait, why can't we not get back to that? Where we function from that level of consciousness. Not the information that we were given, just say, we all come from God. It's way more, it's a deeper experience and at a deeper level of consciousness. And you can tell how that consciousness truly affects the individual by how they function in the world. Garvey being an example. Let us make man. And in that making of man, where it says, God created man in his own image. He created him, one male, one female. He created them. And we know by the history, and every genotype on this earth knows that the first human on the planet was the African genotype. And everything else comes through us. So Garvey's let us make man. He gave us the to-do. Not just to sit down, and it's more than politics, and I'm going to show you that tonight. But let us make man, because we need to get to a point where we are divinely sovereign, where there is nothing above us but our own experience in God, and it's something that we share as a people. Because in that, we can duplicate our history, empire building, with our own hands, with assistance from no one, but our relationship with the Most High. And so in that space, we also stated, hopefully you got to see yesterday's stream. This is the second one. We're not going to go into everything that we went into yesterday. right? But we're going to just give you a hint of what yesterday's lesson, because before yesterday we did all chapters up until to yesterday's insertion of the book. But now we just talking about the Africa for the Africans experience. And he would shout that, Africa for the Africans. Let us make man, and then accomplish Africa for the Africans. But in this journey, we've realized, some of us have, that Africa for the Africans wasn't about a physical destination. Over the period of time, the statement Africa for the Africans became the unseen spiritual warfare for cosmic consciousness. Our connection to the Most High internally. And in that space, when you're dealing with Africa for the Africans, if you're going to continue to quote and shout that out for the whole month of August, understand it's about an internal journey to the kingdom within you. You have to dive deep down. Deep down past the 10% of the consciousness that you use, into your pre-consciousness, into your subconscious, where you're understanding why you respond the way you do and can't truly embody that sovereign state to your collective consciousness. This is a journey to the inner kingdom. Garvey didn't understand how to communicate that. But over this period of time, we've found the ability to tap into the ancient wisdom that is ours, to go home. Not physically transitioning to the spiritual realm, but home within, with the kingdom and the power of the cosmic energy that permeates the entire universe is inside us. And that journey within is what triggered the conversation of the power of the divine self. The power of the divine self. And yesterday we talked about the being voice activated, the language of liberation. And it's not just a harmonic or a sound, or it is a different experience. It is the process of what it looks like when you have gone inside the portals that are within you. Those consciousness portals that every time you go deeper in reading, meditation, connection, prayer, eating, changing your diet, exercise, and you're going down, it's a deeper level of enlightenment. And the further you go, the more you grow. And we said in this space in which we're talking about what happens to the being that we are when we get beyond the wombs. Beyond the wombs. That doesn't mean somebody doesn't hurt your feelings, but that it means that you don't carry it as a scar. You understand the psychological dysfunction in all of us, and I am included. And you function from beyond those wombs, because the journey is to keep us enslaved. That's what the world wants us to do. The journey in the world is to keep us enslaved. But when you walk out of that and you seek to be sovereign, the journey is to get beyond the wombs and remember who you were called to be. And in this space where yesterday we talked about the language of liberation, we said that the language of liberation it changes the different concept of what you think language is. Language is the architecture of consciousness. It is the expression of everything that is inside you. And there is no part of your life that is separate from language before you speak. Language before you speak. Everybody is communicating without saying a word. How you dress, how you walk, how you sit, how you talk, what you eat, how you love. It's in everything. And It takes you, your language will tell you whether or not you're living in a survival state or a state of surrender, a state of sovereignty, a state of service. It shows that part of who you are by how you engage individuals. There is no fear in God. So there is no fear of engaging with individuals who are on the same path, whether or not there's an agreement with them or not. Because we got to learn how to agree. Just because somebody makes a mistake, okay, you pause. And I'm learning this. I'm in the middle of this right now. Does not mean that you can't exist beyond the wombs in the space of sovereignty and delivery. And then in that space, you speak fluently. A fluent conversation, which is the language of life. It's to speak life. My favorite Bob Marley song. Not Bob Marley, but Marley song. What is it? One of the Marleys. Damian Marley. There we go. I had my brain click because I kept hearing the song in my head. But this is the language, it's the architecture of your consciousness. What is it? How do you interact with your own children? Is a language. How you raise them. What are they doing? You can look at, okay, did the language that I plant inside them with how I raise them manifest in something where it can help change the trajectory of humanity? Garvey said, let us make man. And it is definitely, to get to that point, a journey. The unseen spiritual warfare for cosmic consciousness. And tonight, we're going to talk about what happens to you once you reach, you've gone through that portal, you're living beyond your wounds. What happens to you when you talk or interact or live life from that level of language? Then you get to the birth of the seeker. That birth of that seeker who is on the journey and understands that this is an infinite journey of divine consciousness. It's a constant walk to continue to elevate. Where you realize you start speaking in terms of you being limitless. Illness is it's just a tool used sometimes, if it happens naturally, to help you transition. Some people get the chance to go of old age. But this is an infinite journey. Even when the physical journey stops, the spirit continues to evolve. We call on our ancestors who are whole in the space of living in that infinite consciousness. You awaken to the truth. You expand the realms into you go into those realms that are within you. You embody the level of spiritual energy and consciousness that you engage with. You come out and you begin to create sacred life. Everything. And then you ascend, you elevate all other lower levels of consciousness. I remember when I first started becoming online, I said to myself, I do not see what is going to help me elevate into a higher level. Why should I be online? And we have a lot of individuals who reject what they see on social media and engagements. And I said, that was the call. Then the call hit, the shoulder tap. I said, brother, you have the skill set, and I will give you even more of a skill set to help you develop what is needed to be able to see online things that will help you elevate to a higher level. So sometimes these lessons, I'm learning these lessons as I share them. I don't gatekeep. But then I teach them in authority. I speak to them in authority. I'm moving them with authority. Why? Because of the connection of the divine consciousness in which I'm seeking. I'm told. I'm referring to it. So in this space of being a seeker, we're walking into those areas of consciousness within inside ourselves that are clean, absolutely spotless and clean. So you could hear and not, oh, remember what you've been through, but you could hear what you're being called to experience in the true sense of self. I got to go beyond my consciousness, beyond the history that keeps me from experiencing my wholeness, and walk into those corridors of who I am truly called to be. And a lot of us, if you're watching for the first time and you have not, well, brother, I don't know what you talking about. Well, I set it up in chapter 22 for you to see the processes, one of the processes of going internal, inside of yourself. So go grab 22, and you might have to do that quite a few times. You do it throughout the year until you continue, you find yourself, wow, I'm elevating who I am. And I've been in classes where one brother was like, yeah, I'm not getting nothing. And the teacher said, we're going to have to talk on the side because there is something that is blocking you from experiencing a greater you, especially when you come inside, you go inside to kingdom within inside yourself. You're reaching the God within. And the God, and if your knowing is correct, that you know you're a manifestation of divine thought, and you're going within, you're going to receive exactly what you need to move past that scar to continue what you're called. You don't stop when you get to this point and you start feeling and smelling and tasting your purpose. You don't stop because somebody breaks your heart, hurts your feelings, says something you don't like. No, you got to go back in. And I was challenged this week to do just that. Yeah, I had some beings who were functioning on definitely some of the low levels of consciousness. Set up an attack on a DaAfrican. What? And a brother walked up to me and he said, I need you to rise above the experience. That was a challenge. But that's what you do. Because there is nothing more sacred than the liberation of our people. And for us to do this, we have to make man. Let us make man. One male, one female. In the image of the Creator. And so you understand in this journey, once you get past the wounds and you start going back into yourself and you start, wait a minute. This journey is deeper than feeling free. None but ourselves can free our minds. It's deeper than the experience of true freedom. When the voice is liberated, which is how you live, not what you say, not just what you say, but how you live. When the heart and the mind alignment, when you got that synchronicity, and you can sit down and say, what I think is what I feel, and what I feel is what I think. When the wombs no longer determine your perception, you're ready to really to discover what is infinite. You're not searching for your identity because it's already there. You're being remembered. You're remembering who you are. I don't have to search for my purpose. I become it. In these spaces, you get that, you get that, you realize, and something will start clicking for you. Something will start clicking on your behalf. And all of a sudden, you go beyond trying to resolve the issues of survival. And you start dealing with the issue of sovereign. Being sovereign, you become the seeker. The seeker who connects everything, connects himself to creation. I'm seeing that yeah, as I go deeper inside myself, I have a divine connection to all creation. I have a divine connection. You're noticing these infinite things, divine connection to others. I have a divine connection within myself. There is a kingdom of creation within myself, a kingdom of cosmic energy and creative intelligence inside me that I have to go deeper. You move past the earthly issues and you seek a deeper connection with everything around you, your environment. And then you get to the source, the infinite well of consciousness and creativity, intelligence. You understand, you get to that after you going, you're seeking that meaning beyond the meaning. I remember when I started this journey and I was in class and they said, after this state of meditation, connect to the universe, walk outside, you declare your intent for the day and ask the universe and your intent for the day. Allow me to experience the wilderness on a strong level. And then you walk outside and see what gravitates towards you. What insects, basically. And this was a preliminary spot. What insects gravitate to you? And I was like, what? Notice what happens around you. So I walk outside and there's a bunch of bees. And so I'm like, okay, I see the bees. I get in my car, close the door, I drive across the city, get to where I'm going, get out my car. I turn around and I see a bee. I go into the building where I'm coming out and I come back out. The bees was around my car. I jump back in the car and take off and come back home and close the door and I go in the house and I look out the window. The bees. The universe will respond to you when you move toward it. When you become a seeker of the greater understanding, the greater energy that links all of us together, you will notice the smallest of things. Turn on the radio. And maybe there was something that, and a lot of times it happens, there's something that I'm thinking comes off in a song. Or when I'm dealing with trying to reflect on something, a reminder. And that depends on what type of music you listen to. Because if you listen to the garbage, the consumption, you're not going to get that. That's why it's important that you be careful of what you consume. And in that space, if you haven't seen it yet, where we at, what you consume becomes a part of who we are. That consumption becomes a part of everything we do. And so seekers know I can't digest everything. Because there are certain things that you digest will distort your alignment. That's next week. And so in that space, when you're asking yourselves, what's a secret? You're no longer worried about things. Your conversation to yourself becomes different. In that journey, you're asking yourself, how deeply can I know me? What else can I do to go inside myself to understand what the Creator created? Your questions are completely changed. This is why in my journey as a seeker, I always tell my community, I'm going to show you better than I could tell you. Why? I said, because me telling it to you, you may not understand because I'm existing. I don't know if our alignment of consciousness is the same. So if you can't see the vision, let me build it and I'll show it to you. Then that means that I can produce the idea, the language that is in my mind that says, hey, produce this. This needs to be produced in the community. Then I become everything I need to become. All the resources and everything I need to do this comes to me. This is where you get to that point where things don't happen to you. Things happen through you. Why? Because a seeker will continue to ask, how can I know myself? So something will happen to you so that you can understand who you are called to be and exist and move. How fully can I express the divine? Someone asked me the couple of weeks back, how do I continue doing what I do in terms of the level and what's the production? I said, I don't know how to stop. How fully can I express the divine within myself and experience the divinity around me? What else can I do to get closer to that energy and entity and then share that with people around me? What? A seeker will ask different questions. It ain't about, who can I cut off? You see, that's not on the list. But you say, how can I interact with a person where they respect the elevation and then within myself, and then I can speak the language, the version of consciousness that they can understand so that I can elevate them. As seekers, we think differently. We can say whether or not, we can see if you're ready or you're not. What is reality inviting me to discover today? That's an intent. You wake up, hey, please keep my eyes, ears, and mind open, my heart open, so that I may experience what I'm supposed to experience in this day, so that I may become who I'm supposed to become by the time it is by bedtime, by end of day. Because some people's end of day is different than others. Real talk. If I don't get to that, what is reality inviting me to discover today? And if I to the point where I haven't discovered nothing new, I can't go to sleep. There is something for me to experience in this day. And real talk, it has developed at those times where, yeah, the universe wants me to experience and discover sleep. People who know me, who are watching, are going to laugh to that one. Where is the source revealing itself now? You're always looking for the experience of the Most High in everything that you do. You bump into somebody, you interact with somebody, you speak to somebody, and all of a sudden they give you a gem, and you like, wow, I was revealed through that experience. What is the source revealing itself now? Where is the source? What location? Where? How? In my life. That's the depth of being a seeker. Your questions to yourself and within yourself are different. You're not focused on survival. You are focused on becoming. And in that state of becoming, you begin to align yourself with community. Because seekers, they become the calmer type of parent. Your parenting style shifts, where you're trying to plant a seed, not give a directive. I tell kids all the time, I'm trying to get you to become who you're called to be. I don't want you to do what I'm telling you to do just because I want you to do it. I don't even want you to do what your parents are telling you to do just because they want you to do it. However, that experience of parenting and guiding a child should lead a child to the experience of the Most High, their own experience, and then they will be able to tell you who they're called to produce. You become as a seeker, you become a wiser elder. You don't sit down and real talk. Just because what you've done in your youth, you stop producing. A wiser elder realizes that they are a living library and can't take who they are in terms of the information and what they know with them. So they become even more vocal to the other generations, giving and sharing wisdom. You have to make that shift. Even in that parenting sector, when you guiding your kids, after a while, you got to take your hands off and let the kid guide themselves. And you be that wiser leader. You become a more compassionate friend. And in that compassion, that doesn't mean, a softer friend. Because a compassionate friend sometimes knows that you have to tell a hard truth. It hurts. People cry, people get hurt, but you have to tell a hard truth. But you tell it because you love them and you care. People need hugs, handshakes, laughter, all of that. But that's when, you become a seeker. You stand in your engagement with individuals and ask, what am I supposed to give you today? That's understanding the art of duality. You can't be the same with everyone. Doesn't work that way. When you become a seeker and you're beyond your wombs, you realize you are a living invitation for others to awaken. A living invitation for others to awaken. When they see what you produce, I want that. When they see how you create, they want that. When you see how you literally speak verbally, I like that. When they see your language of life and how you live, they want to be a part of that. When they see how others around you gravitate towards you to be the same, I want to experience that. You are a living invitation for others to say, I am ready to heal beyond the wounds and to experience life as a seeker, where the highest expression of seeking is being in service to a community who needs to govern themselves. Let us make man. This is that journey when we say Africa for the Africans. The concepts of spiritual connection that you can't get this across any other genotype. It is the most powerful expressions of who we are and what we taught. And every other genotype that came out of us could not and has not bear witness to this level of experience because they weren't built for it. They are literally the recessive trait of a more powerful state of us. But you invite them to try to experience the highest state of spiritual self-awareness as well. Why? Because we are the creators of humanity, and humanity is our responsibility. Got to get to that. That's a big journey, and we'll get to that. And so now you are understanding that in this state of awareness, your free will awakens to its highest expression. You're like, what? What you do freely is not because you coerced. What you do freely is not because you're forced. What you do freely is not out of fear. Why? Because you're operating from a fundamentally different state of consciousness, higher state of being. And your free will has a passion and desire to live from that experience and share that experience. You realize, wait, I want to know what it's like to have infinite possibilities come through me. And not merely for the sake of you. I want to become all that I'm called to be for the sake of life itself. I need to share this with my people. Why? Because we are not, as a group, not expressing ourselves to our highest state. And so your free will becomes, you can tell, and this is for people in my own community, you can tell if you reach the true level of a seeker if you go home and you still are always building a foundation for the liberation of Black people, or do you find yourself disappearing more into the world? What is on your heart when nobody's looking at you? What's on your mind when nobody's looking at you? What is there when you are accountable to only but to you and the Most High? I could just say the Most High instead of pointing up because it's the Most High, the kingdom of God within inside yourself. Who are you accountable for? Real talk, if someone looks at your digital autobiography, which is your social media engagements, can they tell that you emphatically believe that you are a manifestation of the Most High and everything that you do is focused on going that route? Can they see that in you? Why? Because a seeker, again, operates fundamentally from a different state of consciousness. Let us make man. We got to get back to Africa for the Africans as a unseen spiritual warfare for cosmic consciousness. The seeker is a different being. And this is who you become as you continue to travel into the portals with inside yourself to the kingdom within. And you come out different. Your language, different. Your experience in life, different. How you see all things, different. Can you imagine yourself beyond your scars? Go into meditation and call her. Go through chapter 22 and learn how to go into yourself, into the kingdom, close to the kingdom. Because it ain't simple to get there. It ain't simple. I'm still fighting. But I can tell why, because what I'm producing continues to elevate me. This week was new. I would have never chose to do this, but when it came down to saying this is what the call is, I just said yes, because there's something after this experience that's going to trigger another level, another depth of me experience. Can you imagine who you are without the scar, without the struggle of survival, only functioning from a place of sovereignty? When you hit that seeker style, everything about you speaks louder. And you become that individual where you are simply participating in the same movement that governs the cosmos. You're like, wait a minute. You realize that everything you do is a participation with the movement of the Most High. That energy that keeps that atom vibrating at different rates of speed so that we get liquid, solids, and gas, that creates life from a seed. That is who you vibrate, walk with. That is what you are interacting with. It is a simple participation when you're not functioning from your wounds. And you're not talking about your scars. Even if they're fresh, the hardest part for me was, I remember one time I was dealing with an emotional and mental scar, and I got a call from someone that I had expressed that to, like, yo, I'm I got hit. And they said, nothing happens to you. Remember, everything happens through you. I said, yeah. And so you have to choose purpose over pain. But you got to continue working with the people, interacting with the people, talking to the people. Why? Because they're on the same journey. That's the compassion you gain. If everybody's on the same journey, you can't deny or denounce that which is still on that journey. You find a way to deal with the purpose of the call over the pain you feel. Because God wants to know which one is greater in you, the purpose or the pain. You're participating in the same movement that governs the cosmos. Even as how you digest food, how you breathe, how you move, how you sleep, how you walk, talk, how you blink, how you smile. It is all the energy of the cosmos. You become a different vibrating being. And that person is beautiful. Everything about you is a glow. Everything about you is a glow. Let us make man in the image of God, one male and one female. Can you see yourself? Now, one of the things about getting to that point where everything about you is vibrant and you're stacking and you fighting and you get into what? Divine sovereignty. Wait a minute, why am I not on this slide? And you're getting to divine sovereignty. Let's see here if we can find this. Obviously, these were last minute add-ons. And before we go there, we're going to switch back. And you're digging and you're fighting and you're moving toward divine sovereignty. And you're trying to get to that experience. You're like, wait a minute. This is who I have always been. You get to know yourself in ways that's incredible. It's not like, hey, I learned something new. No, you didn't learn anything new. Your sovereignties, with you understand that everything is a manifestation of that connection. Sovereignty of consciousness, sovereignty of purpose, sovereignty of character, sovereignty of relationships, the sovereignty of creation. And then you get to that ultimate sovereignty, divine sovereignty, where you live, move, and have your total being and the source of all things. You're like, excuse me? The sovereignty of consciousness, yeah, you decide that you think and you flow. You become. You move beyond, from yesterday, you move beyond Eurocentric psychology and spiritual awareness, beyond and past the Black psychology and awareness. You're like, what? Yeah, to get to that African psychology and that awareness to that Pan-Africanism. And then you get to the art of becoming. Going further into where, like before, God body, we are full expressions of the Most High. That purpose, the sovereignty of purpose, where you align your life. Say it, I align my life with divine intelligence, and I live in service to what matters most. And there is nothing more important than the liberation of our people. Let us make man. Wait, we have Najuma, and she said, I am starting to experience this, but only recently. My wounds and scar caused me to try to avoid situations and put on a mask. Now I am intentionally doing the work. I no longer run from it. I lean into it because I want to freely choose to be a better being. Someone is freely living in purpose. It's a challenge every day, absolutely. But I promise I'm trying, absolutely. In that space, what else can you do? It's not easy. It's a challenge every day. Why it's a challenge every day? Because the psychological damage that the Eurocentric society has done to us. This was the issue that Garvey was having. Let us make man. Now we have a pathway to complete that journey. Brother online, when I was posting this thing, he said, watching Black life across the diaspora makes me disgusted, makes me ashamed of being Black. I said, but brother, wait a minute. My response was, What are you doing to change that experience within inside yourself? What are you doing to change the environment in which we live in? You may be disgusted by what you see, but the question is, what are you doing with it? That's something completely different. Sovereignty of character. I govern my mind, my emotions, my habits, my actions with wisdom, discipline, and integrity. You have to watch your behavior, even in the tight situations. And they say when before I say something negative and mean, I'm going to stay silent, and I'm going to work myself through this experience. And I'm going to continue to still be a part of the liberation of my people and the organization and programs and families and groups, the community groups that I'm in. And it's what you do. Sovereignty in relationships. I build and sustain relationships rooted in respect, love, truth, and mutual growth. And even when you don't agree, even when you don't agree, you should be able to, as being sovereign beings, to be able to find a common ground and stand on that common ground for the sake of the responsibility that we hold, that there is nothing more sacred than the liberation of Black people. Living in the community I'm living in, that was a journey, and I learned how to do it. I had to. Else I would, you were at the place, and then all of a sudden you have a bad relationship in a situation, and all of a sudden people wig out of the liberation struggle or go somewhere else. That means it was too much for them to bear. They didn't dive deep enough within inside themselves. But when you're walking in true definition of liberation, where it's not just an organizational group, it's a process. And they have a legitimate process of healing in place to continue the work of our people. Sovereignty and creation. Man, you co-create, and we talked about that in the coming of the Ubuntu generation, which we'll get back to next week. But you become a co-creator. Your assignment's to create on behalf of and with and represent the divine intelligence that created all of this. You don't create for the sake of you. And I witnessed this week where somebody was trying to create for the sake of them, and it all fell apart. That ego is a different experience. We're going to talk about that too. I think that's next week, where we deal with divine alignment, ordered steps. It elevates. It's just a taste. The ego is not supposed to be mortified. It's supposed to evolve. To what? Stay tuned for tomorrow. And then you get to that point where, man, divine sovereignty. There is nothing above you but the creator. You can't even stand because you're in front of yourself. Being individualism is the expression of whatever you have within inside yourself as though it came from you. And all you care about is you. And you do it for the sake and upliftment of you. Individualism, individuality. Everything that I am, everything I produce, everything I write and say and do is an expression of the Most High that governs me. That divine sovereignty, where your ego is not attached to it and you just express. That is a different place to be. It's a beautiful place to be. And when you can get there, when you can get to that state of sovereignty in all things, when you can get to the sovereignty of consciousness, the sovereignty of purpose, the sovereignty of character, the sovereignty of your relationships, the sovereignty of creation, the divine sovereignty of your connection to the creator, Once that happens and you walk and live in that liberated voice, the highest expression of Black power is becoming a person through whom the divine intelligence thinks, divine intelligence creates, divine intelligence relates, and builds civilization. This is what he said. We have to make man. Liberation is not about governmental power. It's about the power within ourselves where we see ourselves connected to everything, and we purposely, Black power becomes being able to express ourselves through that understanding. That's different because a lot of people believe that governmental Black power is the expression of just governing ourselves. No, that's not true. It is who we are as we govern ourselves. That's Black power. Surrendering to the kingdom that is inside us, the kingdom within. And what we create is the experience outside of what we create is the experience of the kingdom within. Are people coming together to experience the kingdom that Black power within then begins to create the world around him. This is what we have done for centuries before the poison of the Eurocentric genotype. We have been able to express and it didn't matter. Being able to express the kingdom within through all things, it didn't matter where we came from. In the continent of Africa, if you had 2,900 different tribes, kingdoms, you had 29 different hundred ways to express divine intelligence. And they weren't competing with each other to destroy each other. Never. You can't get kingdoms in that day and time if you are genocidal. It doesn't work that way. Now, that's the Black power we have to get back to. That is the expression of what we must come to. That is where we must be and go. Black power is the experience of the kingdom of God within you. And then sharing it and creating a world from that relationship outside you. That's what that is. And then there was always, once you reach this state of being a seeker, a pure seeker, you got to defend it. Because I truly believe, and this is a different class, that there is a safety mechanism inside everybody's consciousness. That as you continue to go through the portals within inside your own self, the portals of consciousness within you, there's a fail-safe mechanism that Eurocentric put in us to say, hop, shut them down. And you go back to having behaviors that remind you of the old you. So you always got to stay centered. You got to remain aware. Man, my dreams came recently when they said, do this, move this. You're on a different level, but you're going to be attacked in multiple ways. You got to be aware of your attacks, your thoughts, your emotions, your reactions. You got to be aware that you are light and you are supposed to help share the light, not diffuse it by disconnecting. You got to be able to speak life. Let your words build, heal, and uplift. Let your language shape your reality. And it's not just the conversation, it's your presence. Look at yesterday's stream. It is the presence of your being that speaks life before you say a word. You serve purpose. Never let yourself be detoured from implementing the assignments that you were divinely given. Don't allow somebody to tell you what God called you to do. How do you know that what they're saying to you is not just helping promote what they want to do? They just need help. And they're not asking you for help. They're telling you, just, hey, go do this. You build a stronger kingdom when individuals have an objective experience of the Most High God. And then they hear from within inside themselves, this is what you're called to do. Serve that purpose of always being in purpose. Whatever it is. For me, it's World of Alkebulan. You can't shake me from that. DaAfrican Speaks, you can't shake me from that. The Pan-African Kids Council, you can't shake me from that. Afrobots, the robotics teams, you can't shake me from that. Afroverse, the animation aspect of what we're about to build and set off in a few days, you can't shake me from that. Live in your purpose and create consciously. Live on purpose with purpose and produce things that show purpose. That's definitely a need. Walk in alignment. Live with intention and say to yourself, I am a seeker. I am a divine expression of the Most High. Can you say it again? I am the seeker. And every step reveals more of the infinite source that governs me. Let us make man. One male, one female. I've honored Garvey so many years of my life. And I sat down and said, I need to understand what his cry for in regards to the do. Are you in a space of believing you're an infinite being still creating from the source of creativity that is within you, regardless of the age? I did so much, but there's more to do in the level of consciousness in which you live in. Young people, let loose. Let loose and create from that space of knowing you are a child of the Most High. And with our youth program, the World of Alkebulan, we guide, direct, we move our youth to understanding their greatness. In all aspects that govern their lives, express your greatness. Find your purpose, not your purpose in the world, but your purpose to the world. It's a different thing. What are you building as you build the kingdom of God, which is a black nation? And then how are you changing that black nation, changing the trajectory of humanity? Let us build that generation. This is what we do. This is what I've been a part of for the last 33 years of my life in the Alkebulan. And I freely give all my energy to it. I told the kids before, and one brother said it. He said, how did Amon 12 or 13, he said, it was a funny name that he said. It was like you're a guider, but it was like you're a pencil. You're the hand on the pencil. You're the writer. So what do you mean? You're helping us write our stories. You know, it was something. And I looked at him and it was off of what he said. He said, and I said, I don't know how not to guide you. You know, I don't know how not to do that. If there's one person that shows up on the weekend, I'm teaching. If it's 25 kids show up, I'm teaching. If it's just me, I'm streaming. You feel me? Your free will becomes directly connected to your purpose and it flows out of you like water. Just comes. So if you've experienced something, the seeker in you experienced something here, come on and join the mission. join the conversation. Oh, he said I was a pencil sharpener. And Najuma was there. I said, let's go back. He said I was a pencil sharpener. I said, man, I ain't no pencil sharpener. It didn't make sense to me. What do you mean I'm a pencil? He said, where are the pencils? Thank you for triggering my memory. He said, where are the pencils? And you sharpen the pencils and we write our story. I said, wow. I sat back and I accepted that definition. I am the pencil sharpener. That day I laughed so hard because I was like, what you mean, bro? So the mind of children will describe things totally different to you. The pencil sharpener. Because if you're a pencil and you dull, you sit down. Appreciate it, Najuma. What can you do with this? Nothing. But if you was on my desk, you take it, a child, and you guide them the way they should go. It still ain't sharper. So that means you keep guiding them the way they should go. And then you give them situations, circumstances to take a look at where they are. And you sit down and say, oh, you need more sharpening. And so you continue to do this with our youth. I have a sister saying, what testament do I speak from? I appreciate that. This is Miss Mary King. When we talk about, now when we're dealing with the kingdom inside you, all that's New Testament. When if you want to go back and you talk about Jesus came back for 40 days. He came back for 40 days to spend 40 days with the okay, and you get that from any Bible. You can get that out of any. May I ask, what book do you read from? And you're talking biblically, right? And if you're talking biblically and you're reading what Jesus went to the 12 disciples, the only thing he talked about was the kingdom of God within. It wasn't a heaven in the sky. It was none of that. It was all about experiencing what is inside you. And when you start going inside yourself, and that was why with the dealing with the issue of Pentecost, sister, you asking questions, I got answers. Those people who gathered Pentecost was already gone through the lessons of accessing the kingdom, but could not express the power of the kingdom within while he was alive. Not until they realized this life that we live is life or death. Either you choose to serve the kingdom of God within inside yourself to express how God can come through a being to heal, to change. That was it before it becomes political. Garvey was sitting out saying, oh, let us make man. And he didn't want to be religious. Because every religion that you may follow will get you to a point where they talk about the kingdom of God within. It doesn't matter what it is. It's inside you in every discipline, spiritual discipline that you find. So as African people, you can choose, and this is why you pause, you can choose whatever faith you want to choose. But when you get to the point where you're dealing with the kingdom of God inside you, that is the only answer we need to change our lives. And expressing yourself from that space. Now, African spirituality, we have a lot of disciplines in African spirituality. And they also, too, deal with, and Christianity is an expression of African spirituality if you take it back to its root. The kingdom within. And the African speaks is that expression of I need to show us how to get to the point where the African in you can speak, because before we knew separation, we understood our relationship to the Most High. Before the language of separation was forced in us, we understood our connection to the Most High. That's why we have these great empires around the continent of Africa before the invasion of the Eurocentric genotype. And they had different religious practices, but all the practices led them to one understanding: everything is an expression of God. This is why when Africans have names, their names have African meanings that connect us back to God. Ajay, I am a prophet of God. Tahimba Tulanagwe, my middle name is Okono. Messenger of God, it is your turn. Stand as a nation because God is with us. African names. So this is why when we came over as slaves, we couldn't keep our African names, because our African names reminded us of who we were. And they had to kill the memory. The memory. Jesus' journey, and this is not Sunday. We got a Sunday for you. But Jesus' journey was a journey to help the African remember the kingdom of God within. Period. Because when he came back and he had that conversation to the consciousness of the 12, all he taught, and you can read it for yourself, all he talked about was getting them to access the kingdom within. Nothing outside themselves. So then you get Pentecost. Pentecost is supposed to be the most powerful experience in the Christian year. Why? Because average individuals walk in the power of God. This is the power of the divine self. It is the same thing. So again, I can speak from a place of Christianity. I can speak from a place of Islam. I can speak from a place of Yoruba. I can speak from a place of Ifa. Why? Because you're supposed to be getting to your divine self. That's the African part of who we are. That's the power they don't want us to live from. So I tell you, I'm going deeper in. I appreciate this. This lesson, Mary, one love. Thank you for asking. Now imagine kids growing up with that understanding. Now you understand the World of Alkebulan program. World of Alkebulan is WOAATL.org. Mary, I'm looking at the what's name over here, but I should be looking at you. And that's what this is. It's that journey of becoming what you were called. So we're going to continue this. So if something hits you, join the mission. Join the conversation. Bring a child. On Saturdays, Mary, if you have children, if you know somebody with children, this is how we break these teachings down to a level that kids can digest. And so for those who are connecting, we'll let you know next week. Not next week. Tomorrow. See the trigger. Tomorrow we're doing the week of wisdom. Tomorrow, ordered steps, moving with divine intelligence. Because now your voice, you live from a state of liberation, a state of freedom. You walk into the being of being a seeker. I'm only seeking higher elevation. Yes, I have a 2-year-old son. Woo! I'm gonna break that down. This Sunday, this Sunday we will break it down, because every now and then we have the 2-year-olds, but we have some mature young kids from 2 to 4, 5. Some of them are mature enough to sit still, and then some of them just got to run. I can't do the 2-year-olds in Atlanta without the person in there who is supposed to watch them as we teach, and sometimes they become a part of the conversation. And so these ordered steps, moving with divine intelligence, that's tomorrow night. Because sometimes when we make these moves, we're still moving from our scars, even though we give God praise. We're moving from our hurt or our dysfunction, asking God to guide us. Order my steps from this horror show. Wait a minute, there's certain things that you're supposed to do. God has always been internally waiting for you. But now if you're going to get to the steps that God orders, something different. Alignment, remember, move. That's tomorrow. And to honor Garvey, we will continue focusing on building man. Let us build man. We're going to continue on that to do, so that we can experience a community language that shows civilization as a manifestation of divine thought. Wow. Civilization as a manifestation of divine thought, not individuals, a whole civilization. And please take a look at what we did yesterday, because that breaks that down, because we do have a chapter based on what civilization looks like when it is expressed only through divine thought. So take the time to check out that chapter. Take the time to just go watch it tomorrow, because it's briefly mentioned. But this is who we are. This is what we do. This is what we create. We're here to create an experience where civilization is a manifestation of divine thought. And that's what a seeker does. Not personal wealth, not personal achievements, but building with others who know we are called here to build. And sometimes it's hard to deal with that, because we're not perfect yet. But we're getting there, and we will strive for protection in this limitless journey of experiencing divine intelligence. With that being said, one love. See you tomorrow night. Peace.